Hi, this is Alex from the Office Lab, and today I want to show you how to create this amazing PowerPoint dashboard that is dynamically updated from an Excel backend. Now, in case you haven't already watched the demonstration of the final dashboard in action, I'm going to put the link to this demo video right below this video into the description. However, I'm going to give you a quick insight into the main functionalities of the dashboard files we're going to create. So on the right side, you can see the Excel Backend File, which has all the data, the charts, and the dynamic labels in it. And on the left side, you can see the PowerPoint dashboard design in presentation mode, by the way, which has all these fancy charts and labels included, right? And now, as you can see, the cool thing is you can change the values in the Excel backend, and in the PowerPoint file, all these respective values, charts, labels will be updated automatically. And this instant update of charts and labels that are connected between PowerPoint and Excel is something that is not automatically given, especially if you save both files, close them, and reopen them. In most cases, you have to manually update or refresh the connection every single time in PowerPoint in order to get the most recent values, the newest values, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to code two little VBA macro scripts in Excel in order to make sure that every time something changes in the Excel backend, this macro checks where exactly the change has happened and then refreshes the respective chart or label in the PowerPoint dashboard instantly. As you might have guessed, this tutorial will take some time, so I decided to divide it into the three major parts of this dashboard design process. So the first part will be about the basic Excel backend. So in this part of the tutorial, we're going to create all those tables, charts, and the dynamic labels, which are required for our front-end PowerPoint dashboard. Then in the second part of the tutorial, we're going to create the PowerPoint dashboard design. And within this process, we're going to connect those Excel charts and labels that have been created earlier to the PowerPoint file. And in the last part of this tutorial, we're finally going to code the Excel VBA scripts that allow us to automate this updating process for all the charts and dynamic labels in PowerPoint. Let's get started with the Excel backend file. I already prepared this file in a really basic way, so I just set up the basic table design with the descriptions and some coloring, but did not fill in any values yet and no charts or dynamic labels yet, because that's the interesting part and I want to show you how to do that. You might have asked yourself, what does this guy mean when he talks about dynamic labels? Because you never heard about this. I'm going to tell you what I mean. To show you, let's have a look at this date field. In this date field, we want to fill in a dynamic function that always returns us the current date. And as we want to have two different labels in our PowerPoint file later, one for day and month, and then below that one for the year, we have two fields in here to fill in with two different dynamic functions, right? So the first function is the simple today function, and for the year we add the year function around this today function, so to just get the year. Now, to only have the day and the month displayed for the first field, we have to format this cell in a specific date format. Once we finish that, we're going to ask ourselves what is the best way to transfer these values dynamically into our PowerPoint file that we're going to create later on, right? So one way you might think of is to simply copy these cells into the PowerPoint file. But I gotta tell you, there's no way that this will not look like utter trash. So we have to find a better way. And the only way I found is a nice workaround to create our so-called dynamic labels. Now, what we're going to do is, yeah, you guessed it right, we're going to use the chart function, but we won't use the chart itself. So, for the data for this chart, we're going to select the field we just created, and afterwards we add the data label. And now we're going to remove every single element from this chart except the data label and the respective data point. But to make this chart invisible, we're going to select no fill. Yes. And now we're going to resize this label to make it fill out the whole chart area, right? So you're going to increase the text size, and then you will be able to resize this label by clicking on it and adjusting it to the respective size. And that's basically the whole secret behind dynamic labels, because now you are able to copy them to a PowerPoint file and connect them dynamically, and it still looks fancy because you're able to format them the way you want. Yeah, you also have to set the background, the pane, the chart pane, to no fill so that it is completely visible, right? So you only have the data label. And this is basically what we're going to do repeatedly for every cell value for which we want to have a dynamic label. So we copy the one we just created and just change the source of data. And then one little annoying thing you're going to discover is some of the adjustments you just did will be reset. So we have to set it to no fill again, add the data label, and resize it to the same size, obviously, as before. The fact that you have to do those little adjustments for every new dynamic label you create might seem a little annoying at first, but I can tell you it's totally worth the effort if you consider the result you're going to get. So the next input for our dashboard is just about counting the numbers of executives and employees in our hypothetical company. So I'm going to fill that one out with some random numbers. And since we want to have dynamic labels for both these fields as well, we're just going to repeat what we have done before. And yeah, since it's just repetition, I'm going to speed up that part for you so you don't get bored. Thank me later. The next input field for our dashboard is a little bit more exciting because it will be our first KPI, as we want to measure how much of the target revenue we already achieved. And in order to visualize that, we're going to use a combination of a nice fancy donut chart and one of our dynamic data labels, which will be placed right in the center of this donut chart. So let's start by filling in some numbers for the target value, and of course the actual value, so that we will be able to calculate the percentage of the target value that we already reached in a simple formula below. And below that we want to calculate 100% minus the percentage that we already reached, so that we have 100% in total. Now, to get the dynamic label part of this chart, we're just gonna repeat the process that we already have done several times before by copying this dynamic label and just do the adjustments we've already done before to only get our big data label that is connected to the field that we need in that case, the 63%. And now after doing that, we're going to insert our donut chart, and it will basically be connected to the same source of data, but for this one we have to include both the fields that we calculated so that they have a total of 100% as a data source. Now in that case it looks like this, and we have just to reverse rows and columns of our data, and now we have what we want. We just delete everything that we don't need and recolor this one with a color that we like. In that case I choose this fancy green, and the other one we want to have that one with no fill. And now if we just overlay both of these components, it will look pretty cool. Just like this, yes. Exactly, so I really like it. Hope you like it too, because we just will reuse that kind of chart for our next field, for our next KPI basically. Before we move on, I'm just going to play around with these numbers a little bit so that you can see that this chart label combination actually does what we want it to do. Yeah, as you see, both the label and the donut chart are updated immediately at the same time, and they show the same statistic basically. Now let's move on to the next KPI, which is some sort of to-do list, but in that case with business ideas I want to implement. So once I have implemented an idea, I put a cross or an X behind it so it says, yeah, that idea has been implemented. And that allows me to use this count function below to count how many X's I have above, right? So if I put 1 there, you see the number increases. And that allows me now to calculate the percentage of ideas implemented just with this simple formula, and below that I'm going to calculate 100% minus that percentage. And now for the chart, I'm going to use the exact same as I did for the target revenue. So I'm going to speed this up again so that you save some time. Alright, now that we have done that, we only have 4 really simple charts left to create in our backend. So let's start right off with this sales chart. As you can see, for this chart as well, I already prepared the basic structure of the underlying table. So on the left side you can see the very generic labels for the periods, and now let's fill in some hypothetical sales numbers for our products. Let's do this. Oh yes, oh no, yes, this product seems like the real deal. Look at those numbers, these are really great sales numbers. Oh my gosh, what a great business I have, right? Oh no, let's have a look at product 2. Not so strong compared to product 1, but there are some sales, so it ain't that bad, right? No, I'm just kidding. So once we have filled in all these numbers, I'm just going to create a really simple 2D line chart. So let's insert It's not in the recommended charts. Let's insert that line chart. And in my case, I decide to get rid of basically all the additional stuff right here. So I want to keep it really clean, only the lines. But of course, it's up to you what you want to do. If you think you might need some axes to make it a bit more detailed, feel free to do so. I just decided to keep it really clean. And yes, I think the color adjustments, I'll do them later when I connect this chart to my PowerPoint dashboard. Now it will be kind of like the same thing for the next chart, which I just called market growth. The basic idea of this chart is to display the development of the whole market and at the same time do a comparison of the performances of our company and two competitors. So the basic assumption here is that the whole market only consists of these three companies. And the numbers I'm filling in here right now, they could be anything. They could be like revenue, they could be sales in units, they could be profit. You can choose what you would like to have in here. Yeah, don't judge me on these numbers. They are just totally random, right? Now the big difference compared to the previous chart will be that we won't use a 2D line chart, but instead we're going to use a stacked bar chart. Yeah, I'm going to show you once I filled in the last few values. There we go. Now let's insert this stacked bar chart, just like this, yes. Get rid of all this additional stuff again, because yeah, I want to have it clean. And now what I'm gonna do after those adjustments, I want to have it look a bit more fancy. So I'm gonna add some gaps between those single stacked bars. You see? I think this looks pretty cool. It's something different, right? So just that you get an idea of what I'm doing here. As you might have guessed, our business is totally international. So we have different international locations. And what we want to do now is we want to compare the profits of these locations. So we're gonna choose a horizontal bar chart for this comparison. And yes, as you can see, we have to do some tiny adjustments here. Besides getting rid of all this additional stuff, we want to avoid having these labels overlaid with the bars. So what we have to do for this, we have to go on this tab and choose labels, and then at label position, we have to choose, I have to figure it out myself right now. No, it's not, I guess, no, that's the wrong. I guess it's low. Yes, there we go. So now it's ordered in a nice way. And yeah, that's basically it for this chart. The only thing we have to do is get rid of this fill. So we choose no fill and no line. And now we're basically done with this chart. So our last chart will be about a customer growth comparison for our different locations on a yearly basis for the last 3 years. So we're just gonna insert some random numbers like we did before. And after that, we're gonna select the data and insert a simple bar chart this time. Won't be something fancy for this chart. So let's insert a simple bar chart just like this. And once again, we just have to do some tiny adjustments. This time it's basically all about getting rid of all this additional stuff and setting the background, the pane of this chart to no fill. There we go, and no line. Make it a little bit bigger. And now we can congratulate ourselves because we just completed the first part of this tutorial and finished the creation of our Excel Dashboard Backend. Yeah! Let's continue with the second part of this tutorial, which you can find right here. That part will be all about designing the dashboard in PowerPoint and connecting the charts and dynamic labels from our Excel backend. And of course, don't forget to like, comment and share this video and to subscribe to my channel.